This is 8 ways to book more meetings, and we've just had a rehearsal. And a quick confession is we're not sure whether we've got 7 ways or 9 ways. So we might have 8 ways, we might have 9 ways, we might have 7 ways, but we're definitely going to teach you how to do more meetings. And the section we're on right now is to introduce yourselves, because it's lovely to hear from people. We've got Devon and Indiana. How do I pronounce that? Indianapolis.
Indianapolis, I guess.
Indianapolis.
Yes.
Indianapolis. Savannah in Georgia. Oh yes, Becca's got a great idea. If you share your LinkedIn in the chat, we can all get to know each other nicely on LinkedIn, because we're all massive fans of LinkedIn here. So we can connect through.
Yeah, all around the world, New York City, Mexico,
Fantastic.
fantastic, Seattle.
Little known fact, but my grandmother's from Donegal, so I'm named after.
Mm.
So lovely. Ukraine. Hi, Chris. Oh, it's lovely to see everybody. Brains to burn, exactly. So let's get on with it. People are joining us, and it's lovely to see everybody in the chat. But we have literally got one of the most packed webinars I have ever worked on. So you're going to be seeing us doing this at almost light speed, because we've got so much to share and to give away, and we want to keep it really paced along. Obviously, this webinar is going to be recorded, and as I said before, we've got Vlad here who has got so much to share. I am going to learn so much about it on how to get more bookings. But this is the cold email edition, because when we invited to partner with Vlad from reply.io, one of the things that we realized inside YouCanBookMe is that we don't do any kind of cold outreach. It's something that we would like to learn how to do more about. I personally do. But what I also know is that if you're a business and you want to learn how to grow your business, you want to book more meetings, you need to learn what the psychology and the tips and the tricks are for sending email. So we asked the expert here, Vlad, I'm not even going to try to pronounce your second name, Oleksienko.
Yes, you're right. That's excellent.
There you go. And you've been a veteran of this space, haven't you, Vlad? For over 10 years, you've been working in email. Tell me why do you like email? What is it about email that you like?
Thanks for the intro. Thanks. Yeah. I'm actually a growth person here at Reply with almost now 10 years of experience, typically on cold outreach, sales development, personalization. Now we have tons of great things to play around with. So I love cold outreach and cold emails particularly. Why? Because it's one of the most scalable channels for outbound sales, I think so. And you can actually experiment with bunch of things now with AI personalization, with grabbing cool data, creating like really unique and interesting workflows at scale. So that's why I love playing around with this particular channel rather than cold email, cold calling, or let's say even LinkedIn touches. Why? Because it's less scalable, unfortunately. But
Right.
again, we can see more things for LinkedIn automation and creativity as well nowadays. But email is my channel number one. So that's why I
Fantastic.
love it.
Well, I love this partnership because we've been in, as you know, with YouCanBookMe for over 12 years in scheduling, and we're both in software businesses, but scheduling in
Mhm.
particular, what we have as a perspective in our company is, yes, we have our wonderful YouCanBookMe community that use our tool, but we have 1.5, sometimes more, sometimes less bookings a month going through YouCanBookMe, which means that we have a direct connection to bookers, to people who are going through the booking experience. And more often than not, these are people whose businesses rely on YouCanBookMe. So I feel a very close bond to people who are using
Mhm.
the scheduling tool, because like sending out emails, you're trying to get basically business to happen. So let's dive into the kind of things we are going to be talking about today. 8 ways to book more meetings. The first topic here is how to connect with your, so I'm just now seeing on my second screen, how to connect with your prospects. This is basically how could you be finding people, and cold outreach is one of the ways you can find new customers for your business. Secondly, your no-show rate, which is once you've got meetings, if people don't turn up, we're looking at an average of about a 20% drop in bookings booked versus
Meeting
bookings that have
health.
showed up.
Yeah.
Exactly. So how do you change that? And then thirdly, how do you follow up? And we've got some ideas. And I really want to make some time at the end because Vlad has got some really, really good ideas at the end about how you can do automation and scaling for your follow-ups. But this is the big picture. You have to identify, in any business, this works small and big. You have to identify your buyers. You have to know who's going to buy you. If you're a bakery, you have to find people who are going to buy bread and so on. If you're going to be sending cold outreach, as Vlad says, it's no good any of it just simply going into your spam tray. You have to get those emails opened so you can start the conversation. If you're using a scheduling tool, you will need to book a call, or it doesn't have to be a scheduling tool, but you have to book a call. You have to talk to the person, and then you have to find a way of following up. So these are the 4 ingredients of what we're talking about today. And as I said, the kind of things we're going to learn together is the mistakes you can make when you're sending emails. I've learned so much in the last couple of weeks whilst we've been preparing for the webinar. What the actual stats are, Vlad's got some amazing data-backed insights into email and the things that you have to do in order to get those emails opened. And then the things that we can show from our side that show data-backed insights into bookings. How do you get more bookings because you essentially optimize the tool better? But I think, Becca, you said you've actually done this poll on Zoom. So let's make sure that this is exciting. We really like to know what level everybody is at who's joined us. So for those of you who are in ready full swing with your cold outreach, but you want to optimize what you're doing, please select A. For those of you who are cold outreach curious, but you want to increase your sales and you want to get more calls booked, and we want to hope that we've framed quite a bit of this advice for you guys. And then number C, I'm just starting learning on everything and I need to learn. And that's kind of, in some ways, that's me, because I don't know anything more about cold outreach than probably quite a few people in this call. And I've been learning loads. So lots of C's. If there's a Zoom poll that might be printed, that would be good.
In the chat. Oh, that's awesome.
Chat in the chat. The chat's fine.
Yeah. CB.
The chat's fine.
Cold outreach curious about.
Cold outreach curious. Not many A's. Or Patrice's A. Okay, so lots of C's. This is great. So what we're gonna do is an A. Scott's an A. What we're hoping to do, because you've got an expert here with Vlad about cold outreach, and so he's got loads more giveaways that we can persuade him to share with us today. So if you're an A and you're in full swing, but you want to optimize, our advice is stay with us, and we've got all of the guides and the playbooks that you can get at the end, plus discounts and incentives for you to take whatever you're doing to the next level. So our aim is, whether you're an A or a B or a C, that we want to take you to the next level here, so that you're going to be better at the end of this hour than you started off with all of these principles that we're going to be going over.
Cool.
Okay, does that sound fair?
Sounds fair, I guess so.
So these are the giveaways, the magic giveaways. And we want, as I said, this is super packed, this webinar. So we've got 40 minutes left of essentially slide after slide of stuff. And for those of you who stick with us to the very end, we will find a way of selecting somebody who can choose whether they want, or 2 people who can choose either a free year of YouCanBookMe or a free year of Reply.io. We've also got discounts that we're going to offer people if they don't have an account with either one of us. And basically a thanks from us to you guys for letting us share this hour with you and talk through, I think, some hopefully interesting topics. Any questions? You've got the Q&A section there. Becca is the one moderating that for us, so we will just get into it, booking more meetings. So I've called you an expert, Vlad. I know you don't like being called an expert, but you are really secretly, aren't you? And I know you are because of everything you've taught me. This is the starting point, isn't it? Of like 10 years worth of work. You've reduced it to this sentence, which is, when it comes to cold outreach, the end goal here is to make the prospect say, wow, that looks interesting. Let's chat. So that sounds easy, but it's not, is it?
It does. It isn't. Well, actually, we have lots of A's here, I noticed in the chat, so that will be super hard to impress these people, but let's try. Let's do it. Okay, so exactly. So that's my I would say it's not mantra, but it's my like a favorite like phrase when it comes to cold outreach. And when I start like a new campaign or new idea, so I always think how to impress people. I know it's super hard nowadays, so but we have to give it a try, and we have to do whatever it takes to impress as many people as we can, especially when it comes to cold outreach, because when you open your email inbox, you have pretty much maybe 20, 10, 30, depends on your seniority level, cold outreach per day, and you have to stand out and like impress these people. So how to achieve this? I have like a strategy, and I suggest of you to focus on 5 key elements of cold outreach. Number 1, B2B data, copywriting, personalization, nowadays deliverability because of new updates out there, and data-backed best practices and data-backed insights on how to improve and iterate on your cold outreach.
Okay.
So yeah, number 1,
Data.
it's
Let's talk
data.
data.
Let's talk data, right? So what I've noticed out there is that lots of people nowadays, they want to like to have shortcuts for everything, and that's totally fine, I think. But what I've noticed with B2B database, we should be old school here. Why? Because it's step number 1 for your cold outreach process, whether it's inbound, outbound, it doesn't matter. Your business development, partnership outreach. So everything starts with data. The better data, the more relevant it's, the more up to date it is, the better their outcome is actually in terms of open rates, reply rates, and interested rates. So it's super important to focus on data. And when you use B2B data providers like static data providers, data says that 30% of data is getting outdated every year. So when you use some third-party tools, or when you use like virtual assistants to purchase data, typically they will just download the list of all data and they will share it with you. So if you use B2B databases instead of real-time email searches on LinkedIn, so first of all, make sure to use email validation before adding those prospects to your campaigns and sequences. Because when I see other reply users, sometimes they just upload a list and they don't even verify data, and then they have a huge bounce rate, and they can avoid this by validating their data and removing like invalid contacts, invalid emails from their sequences.
So
So
essentially, the more polluted. So if you've got a data set that's got 30% of out-of-date contacts, and you use that to try to send out an email blast, you're more likely to hit problems because all the systems can see that your data is out of date, and you're going to be treated more as a spam sender.
yeah, it's actually highly connected to bounce rate, because the higher the bounce rate, email providers will think more like, okay, you're probably spamming people out there because because the idea of spamming is like to blast everyone, and they don't validate data. So
But a really good rule of thumb is if your data is sourced from email addresses from LinkedIn, of course, we're all on LinkedIn. We all update our email address. So it's very, very good data on LinkedIn. So even if it might be a more expensive option or more manual option, you're actually getting extremely good data from LinkedIn, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
So when you use LinkedIn, and my suggestion here, instead of using static databases with filters like industry, company size, etc., just use LinkedIn plus email finder,
Like this kind of thing.
like kind
So
of
this,
this
yeah,
thing.
yeah. So this is a sort of tool where you're using a third-party tool to kind of scrape LinkedIn for
Yep.
email addresses, and then you could export that list to your system to do your sequences. And you could
Yeah.
do it manually as well. You could use this to do it manually, but then you're getting real data.
Yes, you can do this manually, but again, it's super time-consuming stuff. When I started doing cold outreach back in 2015, I was doing this manually and I remember I was able maybe to pull 20 to 50 contacts per day, and it took me maybe 5 hours or so, because you can again scrape this data manually.
Let's
Putting
move
this,
on. And so,
yeah,
the other part of it of data is not just the validation and the accuracy,
yes.
but it is also the selection of data. Like if you're going to use a third-party tool to find data, I look at this, Vlad, and I have to say I'm a bit overwhelmed by all of this. Like what is going on here? What is all of this stuff? What is intent-based data?
Oh, great question. And what we'll notice on LinkedIn, particularly, that for the past few years, salespeople, SDRs out there, they focus on intent-based cold outreach, what they call, or trigger-based or signal-based, pretty much the same thing. But when you focus on just, for example, you can just grab a list of ideal customer profiles, ideal company profiles, just based on your ICP you have from your marketing team. But instead of just getting those contacts and those accounts, you can also, what you can do here, you can just search for specific signals that indicate that this particular account or contact in the market currently. So they are looking for your solution and so on.
Okay,
So
that's what you
the
mean by intent-based, that you're
yeah,
trying to
intent-based,
find,
yeah.
using one of these tools to find a signal in this massive data. And
Mhm.
so of all of this, which would be the one that you would think, okay, if I was going to do one, I would use this. What would you say?
I would say that what we've noticed so far that for a most typical use case for an average company, I would say in terms of average, I mean like that will work pretty much for every business out there. It's technographics and hiring intent, maybe even social listening, but technographics and hiring the best one so far because you can play around with a bunch of options out there. So
Okay.
specifically hiring signal, you know, that company, when they hire new people, when they have job openings, more likely they want to extend their budget, maybe have some changes,
So
improve their
something, so you
processes.
can get yourself
Yeah,
in there at that point. And
exactly.
so just you snuck this in. I haven't seen this before. So this is your idea of 60 different intent-based outreach ideas. So if you are going to use one of those tools to select on the basis of a criteria that's going to give you an intent-based signal, these are some ideas. And so where have you got this hidden? I haven't seen this before.
So we will send the link in the chat or via email as well, I think. So
Have you got it
everything
on Notion? Is it something you
in
can
Notion. Yeah,
share?
yeah, yeah.
Vlad, will you
We
be
will
able to share it? Would people on
cool,
the
cool.
chat want to see this? Is this something that's interesting for people,
Sure, sure.
especially all the A's, all the people there that
The-
are trying to optimize? This looks to me, yes, we're getting some yeses
yes,
from
yes, yes,
David and
yes.
from Martin and from Anna. So yeah,
Cool.
definitely. If you can share that with us, that would be brilliant because
That
I
would be
totally
brilliant. Yeah.
understand
Hmm.
that if what you're saying is that these are 60 ideas that you can put
Hmm.
into this system and they will give you people who are doing this, and on the basis of this, you
Hmm.
can then actually select a much more targeted list of people to send your
Exactly.
outreach to.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly. So 60 plus strategies plus what I didn't show on the screenshot. We have even templates for those strategies for some of them. So you can just copy and paste things.
So Georgina is asking, how does this sync in with say, YouCanBookMe? Is this a separate initiative or just for outreach? And so this is the whole point. What Vlad is talking about is how do you get these emails out? How do you scale? How do you send it? But what I want to cover here is you could use an at-scale email mailer, but you could also just be emailing people with cold outreach yourself. But at the end of the day, it all leads to the same thing, which is sending them a link. And I'm going to come on to that in a bit later, Georgina, about how you would send, how you can maximize and optimize bookings by using a scheduler as well. So we're about how do you optimize every part of the process.
Yeah.
And here, the news is short, sweet, and personalized for your subject lines. This is right.
Yes. Well, now we have data. We figured out, we sorted out data. Now let's focus on emails and copywriting. So the first thing is subject line, short, sweet, and personalized. Here's what we mean. Thanks for like summarizing all those things. So when it comes to subject lines, short means up to 5 words max. One question sometimes. Don't use like long sentences. Use company name, first name, so everything that can like attract their attention. Why 5 words? Because 50% of like users of Gmail, say inbox users, email client users, they use mobile phone to open emails. So and when they open your email, they can see just up to, I don't remember number of symbols, but typically it's 5 words. So that's why you should have short, sweet, and personalized subject line.
Okay, got it. 15 seconds to write the email.
Mhm.
Vlad did this for us, which I think is like anybody can take a screenshot of this or wait for the recording, but anybody can write a cold email based on this sequence, don't you think? And I've got a question here from Michael pointing out that most sales organizations do not know how to convert intent leads. I think that's a really interesting point, which I might come back to later on when we come to it. But the
Yeah.
thing is that if you're trying to do anything, if you've got your data coming from intent, whatever it is, you've got 15 seconds with a short, sweet, and personalized subject line for them to open the email and get to the point really quickly, haven't you? And you've got an example here, which
Yeah.
is
So
Go
it's
on.
now in terms of 15 seconds, it's just about emails now. So a typical email reader will just spend 15 seconds reading your email marketing email. So in these 15 seconds, you have to explain the reason for outreach, your value proposition, clarify what's in it for them actually, and encourage your reply. So you just typically you have 15 seconds. And when it comes to like reading speed, so they can read approximately 50 to 100 words during this short period of time. So that's why you have to have short emails.
We're just becoming a nation of scanners. We just scan everything. And
Yeah,
also TLDR has become a universal signal for like I have no attention span to take up anything more than a few sentences. And it's become totally normalized. And I think it's,
sure.
well, fair enough. Everything used to be
Yeah,
far too long.
I know, and just to even extend this thing, when there is like a data says when they read emails, sorry, when they scan your website, it's an F pattern. So they don't read everything, they just skip things and they focus on this F reading pattern. So you have to, so when you know what's the best part of your email, you have to
So
use
I'm
those
going to
phrases.
skip through some of this because we've already covered it. But
Yeah,
basically,
sure.
this is your too long didn't read version of this. Keep it short, lots of paragraphs, maybe a question and CTA.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to move on to this because it's relevancy
Mm-hmm.
rather than personalization. And I think that this is a really key point for everybody to
Mm-hmm.
understand about any kind of sales approach that you're making. So this is not just about email. This is the relevancy is what we've already covered with intent-based data, which is that if you hit an email or a sales call or any kind of approach, when you've actually got some relevance for the person that you're talking to, you're much more likely to sell, aren't you?
Exactly. So that's where relevancy, handshakes with intent data. So when you have this intent data, you can just use it as a reason for outreach and be relevant to your prospect. And what I have learned during these like 10 years, that relevancy is more important than personalization, because you can spend like dozens of hours personalizing your campaigns, your sequences, even like figure out the school of your prospect, their hobbies. But what my CEO says, my founder here at Play says, well, I don't care about this type of things. What I really care about, like short emails relevant to me and sent in the right times. That's it.
Okay.
So relevancy is more important than personalization. And how to be relevant, use intent data to like, and use it as a reason for outreach. Hey, I notice you're hiring salespeople, but yet still you can be personalized. So you don't have to abandon this concept. So when it comes
This is
to
that you've opening the lid on this, Vlad, because I get these emails with
uh-huh.
gifts and sharing and all the rest of it. And I didn't know that, there's these tools that exist to essentially be able to ramp up what you're sending to people and make it look personalized, but it's at scale. And which would be of these tools, which one would you say if you were starting off, if you weren't doing this at scale, what
Mhm.
one could you use that would be the most useful for
Ooh.
smaller scale businesses?
Great question. Great question. For Bs and Cs, I will definitely suggest High Price as an all-in-one tool and super, super simple, super easy to implement it. You can use it for personalized images. That's the
Hyperres.
best use case here. High Price.
Excellent. I mean, can I just also make another point for personalization? And Michael is saying buyers don't care.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think we have to call it out. It's a bit creepy, but it's equivalent of getting an email saying, "Hi, Bridget, I know where you live." It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
You don't go into a shop normally and say, and they go, "Oh, hi, nice top." Nobody does that. So I think that personalization, I like the idea of things that make things a bit more fun and a bit more engaging and a bit more
Mhm.
interactive. But I'm personally not a fan of people trying to prove that they drink in the same coffee shop as me. That's
Yeah,
spooky.
I would avoid that, but I know that for some enterprise sales development teams, it works. But I have no experience
Okay.
with them.
But
But
this
in
is
some
this
ways
is
it
an
works.
email. This is
Yeah.
an email that you got that you were really impressed with, weren't you?
Yeah, and when we combine, yeah, that's just wanted to add this screenshot because why I typically receive lots of cold emails as well, and I decided to screenshot this one because it really resonates with me. Why? Because it has all those best practices I use myself, like personalization, short, sweet, um, relevant with personalized content there, meaning personalized screenshot plus personalized landing page, super simple, focused on deliverability. So I'm pretty sure this person gets tons of
He
responses.
probably did weird, spooky research on you, Vlad, and made sure that he absolutely nailed it. Well done, Vincent, because you impressed an expert. Right, let's talk about deliverability, which is
Yeah,
the devil is in the detail, essentially, of sending out thousands of emails. Even if you have great data, a cool email template, and unignorable personalization, your deliverability setup may ruin your cold outreach game. So
cool. Yeah.
let's talk about it. What is the number one thing that you think actually increases your chance of going into spam?
So yeah, deliverability is number 4 in my strategy nowadays, especially since 2024 when Google and Yahoo changed their email deliverability spam filters. There's email spam filters, and now you should focus on deliverability and should be an expert on this topic if you want to scale your cold outreach. So when it comes to some quite typical mistakes they make here is spam words. So my story here that I think back in 2018 or 2019, I just sent 100 cold emails with a word discount in my cold emails. And I noticed is email got something up to 30% open rate, and I was shocked. Why? Because I have never seen such low results before. And then when I just analyzed everything, then I checked the copy and I see this word offer or discount. I just just removed it, and then my open rate returned back to 70 or 80%.
Okay, so
So
don't sound like a spammer, basically.
yes, and don't use spam words, something like
And then this is
discount offer,
right.
and yeah.
This is a new word I've never learned from you, spintax. So explain to me what spintax is.
So syntax actually stands for kind of verbals you can use with cold outreach tools out there. So for example, imagine you send something like hi first name. So for when you send hundreds of cold emails similar to each other, email providers know you send templated emails. So what you can do here, you can use those syntax verbals. For
Okay,
example, instead of saying just hi first name, you can say hi, hello, hey, good morning. And with every new copy, we will just randomize one of those 4 options
got
for
it.
you. And when you have 5 syntax verbals in your cold email, that's completely different story. Why? Because you have hundreds of personalized emails just
Love
based on
it.
those syntax
Makes
verbals. Yeah.
sense to me. Okay. Um, so we all love our rich image-based signatures, but you're just saying no, don't do it. Just have a simple signature because those images have got the open tracking business, nobody likes it, and any images Google doesn't like it, and you're much more likely to go into spam.
Exactly, because typically those pictures like heavy in terms of kilobytes.
Yeah.
So typically a signature can be even heavier than cold email itself. So you should avoid this and focus on simple subject
Okay.
lines as an
So
example.
this is the kind of thing you're really talking about, which
Mhm.
is you've got your spintax, you've got a simple signature, you'll have a short and sweet email subject line. And that's essentially the best you can do to send an email and try to get it into somebody's inbox, not their spam. Here's one. Because I was learning so much about this, I thought, well, I'm going to look into, I looked into my spam folder, which I never do, to see what has been marked by spam. And I found this one, and I kind of feel a bit sorry for them, really, because they've paid for this. This is not a spam thing. It is completely relevant because YouCanBookMe uses JustWorks. So I'm assuming we're on some list of companies that have a particular type of PEO. And so they want to try to, and they're a broker. So they're really genuinely trying to sell us their broker services, which is not at mass. They're just trying to say, look, we could maybe get you a better deal on your JustWorks renewal. Perfectly legitimate thing to do. But they made these key issues. So they were relevant, Vlad, but they went into spam. And can you explain a bit more about why they went into spam?
Uh, Great, sure, sure. So number one, as you can see here, they used email marketing automation software instead of cold outreach tool, and they send
That's what
through
the mailer thing
their
is.
APs, yes, and that's
So this is an
they,
example of sending a sales email through what would normally be used as email newsletters.
yes,
So if you have
correct.
email newsletters where you've got people subscribing to your newsletter and you're sending them out every week, and that's completely legitimate, and there's plenty of mailers that do it, these people have used their mailer for sending out sales emails, and Google has gone, nope, and they've spammed you, even though, you know, they've sent me their Calendly link. They're not getting a booking, they're not getting anything, because of just something that has just stopped what was otherwise a perfectly legitimate sales email to get into my inbox. And quite frankly, but now that I've I'm now highlighting them on this webinar, I might actually have to book them to see what they've got to say, because it feels a bit unfair otherwise. So best practices of deliverability. This is your too long didn't read version, which is, of course, just don't do anything so complicated that Google thinks you are maybe a spammer.
Exactly. So when it comes to maybe 5 best practices here, like send less cold emails, probably disable open tracking because of new Google updates, then validate your B2B database. We already discussed why, because of bounce rate, avoid spam words, and make unique content copies, cold emails based on AI or spin text both. And number 5 is data-backed best practices. So just a few examples here why I should teach like my SDRs out there to focus on data. Why? Because you can ask lots of great questions. For example, here, as you can see, the shorter your emails, the more replies you get. So as you can see here, like shorter
It's pretty
emails
simple.
is simple. Yeah.
Higher open rates, shorter emails, higher open rates.
Yeah. And it's like correlates with simple language. That it's quite common rule for marketing, cold outreach, pretty much the same. And another example here, they say, hey, you should send more cold emails to the same person, including follow-ups to get more replies. But what we'll notice here that the more emails you send, the less effective they become to this particular prospects, and majority of your responses, you will get them on step number 1, 2, or 3. So focus on maybe 3-step sequences. That's, by the way, my strategy as well. 3, 4 steps max.
And these are the kind of questions that you would say to anybody who is trying to increase their number of sales emails to try to get more calls, more things booked. They want to know, you are saying you have to basically start testing with these kind of things.
And you should ask yourself questions like, how does emails length impact reply rates? Does my email contain spam words? How does subject line length influence open rate? What's the best time to send cold emails? What's the best call to action? Do emojis improve reply rates? How many questions should be in an email? And important one, does email tone matter? So of course you have to find answers to all these questions, but the more you ask, the better.
And then you can optimize. Right. For those of you who are hungry for more, Vlad has literally written books and books on this. This is all of the kind of initial checklists you need to look at for those topics, plus the playbooks. I think Becca has got sneaky ways of being able to share this, the playbooks with everybody. Don't worry, you've got even more to learn. But I've definitely, Mike is clamoring for this in the chat. When it comes to cold outreach, the end goal here is to make the prospect say, wow, that's interesting, let's chat. Well, what do they then do? They book the call. This is where YouCanBookMe comes in. Don't forget, for anybody who is interested, stay to the very end after my little, walkthrough of how you can increase your number of bookings using your scheduling tool. We will give away lots of things for free at the end. So what is next? I'm sorry, I've been in this business for 12 years and having a booking link is just not enough. I can tell you now, 12 years ago, it was enough. 12 years ago, having a booking link was one of the most exciting innovations in any kind of business outreach that we had ever done. People were just clamoring for it. But now it's not enough. You need to put your scheduler to work. When to send, what to send, how to optimize, and how to follow. Now, just as a disclaimer, I'm sure everybody out there is using lots of different tools. I'm sure, there's plenty of people using YouCanBookMe on the call. It's lovely to see you all here. But let's just face it, we're not the only scheduling tool. But I want to give you advice now, which actually should be universal to whatever scheduler you're using. This is the kind of world we live in when we're trying to book calls, we're trying to get leads into our business. They end up coming through, they book a call, we have to follow up, we end up with no-shows, and we're just kind of corralling all of these people. But I want to start with this guy, Charles. Charles sent me a cold email, and I very rarely look at them, probably even less than 15 seconds. But I liked his cold email. And so I booked a call. And this is part of his sales thing. He has these testimonials, but clearly he's very good at it. So I asked him about what he does. I interviewed him. He uses cold outreach, similar kind of strategies to what Vlad was talking about. He books about 100 meetings a week, and he sends his booking link after he gets his first reply. So essentially, he only sends it. And what he said to me was, I just send them a very short message with my link, which is different from a lot of people. They send their link too quick. And you agree with that, Vlad, don't you?
That's my best practices here. Best practice here. Use soft interest-based CTAs. We have this in
Yes.
copywriting guide. But yes, for cold outreach, like pure outbound,
Yeah.
like emails with no links is a better option. Yes, for sure.
So in terms of what to send them, and I'm going to come back to that point. This is my link. So anybody wants to book the CEO of YouCanBookMe, there I am. I'm not hard to track down, bridget.youcanbook.me. But you can send them a link, obviously, and they say, there you are, those are my times, go crazy. But what we want to say is you might want to consider this, which is pasting your YouCanBookMe times, and other schedulers absolutely do the same thing, pasting and embedding some suggested times into your email. And the reason why is because it increases the sense of urgency about the call. So if you look at this is kind of like, yeah, sure, speak to me Monday, speak to me Tuesday, whatever, like whatever time suits. This is, can we speak Thursday? So if you're trying to send a sense of urgency about, we want to set up a call and I want to keep the momentum going, it's much better to send a few time choices, because then they're only looking at Thursday 10 to 11:30. They're not looking at like, okay, well, when am I going to start, even thinking about speaking to this business? It increases your booking rate by 13%. This is actually Chili Piper's research, but we completely validate that with what we can see as well. Essentially, your booking rate will go up by 13% if you embed your times into emails. So you've gone through a cold outreach program, however it is, you've reached out to new prospects. If you want to book a call, this is a better way of doing it. I'm just doing this really for my own kind of political statement now about how you send and share links. I am completely over people who send me links to say, why don't you check my calendar availability? It drives me nuts. This kind of like, feel free to check out my availability, because nowadays a lot of us have schedulers. So what you don't want to be like is this, because I think so much of sales turns into this, where you haven't got the right intent, you haven't got the right personalization or relevancy. Nobody wants to hear you, and sending Calendly links or YouCanBookMe links out into the wild isn't going to do anything. Having a booking link doesn't in itself mean that you're going to get a meeting. You need to be more like this. Obviously, America's favorite sweetheart, Oprah Winfrey, but you need to be about saying, all of us want to get meetings and to do business together. That's the point. So I would say my pitch would be, use a scheduling tool that allows bookers to share their availability. So you can see in this screenshot, this is from YouCanBookMe. If you were booking using a YouCanBookMe page, you can even connect your bookers, especially in B2B. If they've got a Calendly account, for example, they can overlay their times on your booking page. So what you're saying is, here's your times via Google or Microsoft, or if you have a YouCanBookMe account or a Calendly account, it doesn't matter. If you're a booker, we're agnostic about your times, and this connects both booker and booked. And here are the kind of things that you can say. So this is our scheduler syntax. This is the sort of thing that Vlad was talking about in terms of your email. I think we can share some of this language. Oh, not that fast. I'd love to find a match when you're both free. You can match your times with mine. I've added my times next week, so you can match your times. Sorry, I'm just now trying to think. Share your availability with me here on this page, and we'll find a time to talk more. There's lots and lots of ways you can use language which is going to sound human, normal. You're not just saying, here's my calendar link. You're actually trying to say, look, we need to speak about this. So I think, am I right in saying, Becca, you have got this as part of the big download package we're offering. So for people who struggle to know how they're trying to suggest making a call, we have some language for you.
Absolutely. I'll send it after this call.
Thank you.
And I love it, because why? Because also sometimes find it hard to find great example of these type of emails when it comes to meeting, and you want to be polite, yet still
exactly. You just don't want to sound rude.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Nimisha is asking, how do we embed the booking times? Really good question. It's different depending on the tool that you have with YouCanBookMe. If you have the Chrome extension on your browser, then it means that you're logged in at the top of the browser window, and you literally can find those times on your logged in YouCanBookMe drop down, and then you literally select what you want, press copy, and then you can paste them in. So I'm sure we can send you a link, Nimisha, for that. And I just want to say, that is something which is quite a few scheduling tools do it. And it's a really important thing to offer people an opportunity to pick a time on Thursday or whatever. So making it easy and frictionless does not mean to say that you can't be pretty strict about optimizing and locking down your flow. So very similar to cold email, you have to make a choice about personalization, customization, multi-channel outreach, and workflows, depending on the level that you're at. So I've got another little kind of top tip for you coming up. Personalize is great. So in this case, you are literally personalizing it, using first name, using the information that you can collect on the booking form. You can reflect back that I speak to a lot of people who use YouCanBookMe who don't realize that they can change what they set on the booking form, take that information and put it straight back into the email. So you can say, I'm glad we're going to be discussing this, or I'm looking forward to, tackling this issues that you've raised. So you can personalize so much more about the email that the person gets. And I think he's on the call here, Chris. I was talking to him earlier in this week, and he was telling me about how he's personalized his notifications so that when somebody receives a notification from their booking, it feels like it's come from Chris. It hasn't come from a generic machine. It's come from Chris because Chris personalized it in the flow. But this is something else I want to talk about, which people don't quite appreciate, because I know more about bookers than we know so much about bookers because we do over 1 million bookings a month. So we know about what bookers do. And what bookers do is they go to the calendar event. For any event that they have done, that they've booked you, they will manage it via their calendar event. So you can personalize your calendar event. So you have to think about that. If somebody's booked a sales call with you, you can personalize what it says in the calendar event title, what it says in the description. And again, this is universal. This is not just for YouCanBookMe, but you need to think about it because that default language that any scheduler would have put in, and we have this problem, how can we put language in which is going to deal with over 1 million different types of bookings? We can't. So we have to put in pretty generic language so that if you don't customize it, it's going to look okay. But that's not to say that you can't actually start to change the way your calendar event looks like so people can see it. Equally, we put in default reminders and formatting, but you can change that workflow. You can decide when you want emails to be sent out, when you want everything else. And your job here is when somebody's booked a call for you to reduce no-shows, which you do through this kind of workflow management. Again, you change what information you're collecting on your booking form. Go on,
We have a bunch of questions. People joined us late. Do we send everything to them? What do they say here?
Are we going to send them? Yeah, well, I think we are. Yes, I think we probably bringing in more content in the middle of the webinar.
So, yeah.
I'm really excited about the fact that people who are here live are going to get absolutely everything, and I hope anybody watching the recording makes sure that they then contact us for the full set of goodies. Absolutely.
We will send everything.
People don't use SMS as much as they should do, but actually SMS has this massive effect on your ability for people to show up on their to reduce your no-shows. So if you think of a no-show rate is around 20%, you want as many of those no-shows to show up as possible. If you send them a text to show when they're booked and a reminder that the call's about to begin, you massively increase your chances of that booking going ahead. And then, we can see that not only because SMS is one of the most successful channels people use, people are checking their text all day, but also you've got an opportunity of feeding all of that information through workflow so you can update other systems. So that's my kind of pitch for using a scheduler. I'd be surprised if anybody on this call is not using a scheduler, regardless of what it is, but that's what you need to do. But what you have to learn how to do is to optimize so that the booking process itself is helping you nail down your meetings through SMS, through notifications, through customization, and through personalization. So that booking experience becomes an extension of your business or your sales outreach because it's their first contact with your company. They've received a cold email or any kind of an invitation to book a call, and now this is the first email that they're going to get from you. So I would be saying spend a lot of time on making sure that flow looks great. This is the kind of no-show, pain that people go through. And Vlad, you yourself recognize this. You have a no-show rate of about 20%. Is that right?
Oh yeah, that's huge one. Sometimes when I calculate, so we will even talk, I guess, about this more. When we calculate those numbers, like okay, if we have, for example, 5% of no-show rate, that would be awesome. But yeah, no-show is super important. It's, I guess, one of ways to improve your meetings.
So this is one of the goodies that we're giving away for people on the call who have a large number of meetings that they're booking every month, and they want to know what their no-show rate might cost them, to give them a business case to potentially change their scheduling tool. Who knows? This is what they can use. They can use this to actually start to understand what no-shows cost their sales team. And I asked Vlad if he could share some of his stats for us from Reply.io, and it's really interesting. Talk to us about this, Vlad.
So yeah, thanks. So as you can see here, a chart below, it's a number of demo no-shows we have every month. Typically, it's between like 15 to 25%. Again, it depends of campaign, whether it's outbound, whether it's bridge bound, what I call it. Like it's still outbound, but it's your leads in your CRM. Typically, I call it just bridge bound. Why? Because they have heard about you and they don't interact with you now. So it's like a bridge between inbound and outbound leads. So typically, our no-show rate is something between 20%. So what we do here, when we have a no-show, we just have an automation, and every time when there is a no-show, we just send this prospect to sales reps sequence. For example, Michelle, no-show, and then she sends just a few emails and LinkedIn touches, and then we kind of can return back up to 20, 25, sometimes even 30% of demo no-shows back to our pipeline. So
I love this. So again, I think that this is that you can only get this kind of data if you have the kind of scale that you've got. So obviously you can see the measurable effect of running a process on your no-show. So for anybody in this business where they're trying to get sales leads and they're doing these calls and they're doing these kind of prospecting calls, if they have no-shows, what they should be expecting is to potentially recover maybe a third of those no-shows. That's what you're showing, that with specific outreach, you can actually recover up to a third of your no-shows for people who were interested, but they just missed the booking, and you get them back on track, basically.
So our scale was lower before as well. Maybe we had something between 100 meetings per month, and then I just was thinking about how I can get even one meeting back to our pipeline. So it doesn't matter with your scale. So have a process for demo no-shows. Like even if you have 5 meetings per month, and if you have just one no-show, you just still can push them to a campaign, or maybe you can automate it in your YouCanBookMe account. But again, it's just about like having a process to return them back. So
now I can see there's a question here that I want you to talk about, which is Ellie talking about, well, let's just pause for a second, because there's a couple of questions. There's what I think Michael was asking about earlier, which is that sales teams don't know how to deal with intent data. And Ellie is saying, if she has a high open rate but low reply rate, is it possible that the body of her email is not effective? To me, what we're saying is, like, how do you deal with this data that you're trying to do? Like, have you got any best practices for us about content and conversion of your copy?
Yes, great questions out there. So again, I live in this SaaS kind of chamber, black box, how we call it. So for if you have a situation when you have a huge open rate but low reply rate, like what you can do here, you can just try around with not personalization, but with your reason for outreach and with your maybe soft CTA. Don't ask for a meeting right away. Just want to chat tomorrow at 5 p.m. Just ask, is this something you're interested in? What we definitely know, and based on data from other tools like Gong, they say, hey, if you use soft-based, interest-based calls to action, you can double your reply rates. And then you can just continue a conversation and just book a meeting down the road.
So basically, be normal is what you're saying. just be normal. You just like, just be nice, just be a nice, normal person, sending emails, being interested, being relevant, and then trying to nurture the relationship.
Great summary. What I call it, reveal their curiosity, like be curious. Like, I'm curious. Is this something you want to chat about? Is this something you have on your radar right now? And then they say yes, no, let's chat. That's my suggestion.
And what we're sitting on here is, this is kind of what you're saying that you've discovered is that none of this is worth ignoring. You can actually go out to all of these different types of groups and find ways of re-engaging them. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So when I joined Reply like 7 years ago, I was thinking, so how I can show results in the first month, how I can book meetings on like right away. So what I did here, I just went to our CRM, downloaded a list of demo no-shows, ghosting opportunities, close those deals, created personalized sequences based on their use case, meaning reason for outreach. Hey, I noticed you had a conversation with one of our sales reps 6 months ago. Is this something you want to chat right now? Maybe you want to have a tool for your sales team. So, and then when you join a new team, you can just, even if you have a sales team, you have a process here, just always re-engage your leads in your CRM.
So maybe I think the answer to Ellie, who's saying she hasn't reached out with people who've opened their email, but should she reach out directly? I think we've got an example here, which is the answer is yes. This is the kind of an example that you've got about how you try to re-engage people. The answer is, yeah, of course, re-engage them. Try to go back to them and say, yes, what can we do to help?
It's an example of this re-engagement email for close those deals.
Okay. All right. And then we've got, we want to talk about this from the perspective of YouCanBookMe, because I absolutely love what Vlad has been teaching us about at scale. You can get these flows, you can start to sort of set things up so that you can do this. Once you've got your flow of cold email prospecting coming in, you can then continue to re-engage people with these multi-channel ideas that you've got. But I want to talk a little bit about what YouCanBookMe can do, because you can do a miniature version of this in YouCanBookMe, because you can mark and track no-shows in YouCanBookMe, and you can also mark follow-ups. So one of the things that I think is a really good takeaway for anybody on the call who is using YouCanBookMe now, and they think, how can I be engaging more people who've booked a call with me and I'm not necessarily following up personally? You can do that using YouCanBookMe. So, and I have to say, Charles did this with me. So after I booked him, I got an immediate email from his scheduler that said, thanks, I really enjoyed that call. Then I got an email from the next day that said, have you thought about looking at my services? Then I got another day, 3 days later, saying, here's something else that you didn't realize, and maybe you should join my newsletter. And then I got another email saying, by the way, I just wanted to let you know I really, really did enjoy our call. So every email, and we've got some examples of that. Maybe we could get Charles on at some point to kind of talk it through. And I'm sure, Vlad, you're very, very familiar with this. But for me, it felt like a bit of an eye-opener that people can use a scheduler like this, like YouCanBookMe or the tool that Charles was using to do this. Like, it's like a little mini automation workflow, which is super easy to add in. And then you're using a scheduling tool to do email workflows, aren't you, Vlad? And what you can do if you have a no-show in YouCanBookMe, this is the kind of thing you'd be talking about. You can, if you mark it as a no-show, if the booking gets marked as a no-show, you can switch workflow so that then you start sending no-show emails to people, which are the re-engagement flows. And what I think is a kind of long, you're at two ends of the spectrum here. You either start doing this for all of your manually collected, cold email, handwritten, personalized emails, and you're using YouCanBookMe to do those flows. Or obviously, if you're a slightly larger organization, you want to do that at scale. You want to have a tool like reply.io to help you. Isn't that right, Vlad?
Exactly. So that's a great summary here. I would definitely suggest maybe to try YouCanBookMe process for this in most cases. But again, it's even an issue in our organization. When you have that scale of meetings, it's super hard to like automate those things. So you have to have an in-house sales ops person. Like, okay, so and then they have to have like, I would say dozens of if-else logic things, because if this meeting is booked for Michelle's and never add to Nisha's sequence. So bunch of automation, but yeah, I will suggest to try
But
this.
this is
first
just
of all.
anybody with just a YouCanBookMe account or any kind of scheduler that does this kind of multi-email notification workflow. This is what they can do. And I think it's a really easy takeaway for somebody to be able to do in no-shows. You can obviously include your booking link to say, I know that you've no-showed, but listen, here's something else. Here's a survey. Here's some other call to action. Like you were saying before, try to gauge intent and curiosity. Now, we have got loads more. I'm not sure, we've only got 5 minutes, whether you can tell us quick fire some of the other ideas that you've got, Vlad, that if people want to know more about, you can contact us afterwards. But this is the kind of thing where you can use LinkedIn to automate. Well, tell me what it is.
So yeah, you can yeah, thanks for the intro here. So what you can do here, you can just automate your workflows by conditions. For example, you can have a conditions based on engagement, different type of fields, contact information, for example, in terms of engagement, a most accurate one for, let's say, for business development people there. If they click a link in your cold email, just add them to a more personalized branch of your campaign. If not, just keep sending generic cold emails. So, and then here another example for inbound leads, even inbound customers. And I was inspired by another founder out there. So what you can do here, when they book a meeting with you, you can enrich this contact information and then maybe push to your like cold outreach tool. And what you can do here, send them a personalized welcome intro or connect with them on LinkedIn. So part of my growth hack was to connect with every reply customers on LinkedIn and send them something like, hey, here's another example from Tyler. When a new customer joins their product, he sends a personalized welcome message on LinkedIn with some useful resources. And I think lots of customers will appreciate this, even if prospects. Why? Because you can automate this with your prospects. For example, if someone books a YouCanBookMe meeting with you, you can just push them to this personalized flow and connect with them right away on, let's say, LinkedIn, and send some useful resources before like even the meeting.
So I love this. And you know what I love about it is that, I mean, a lot of this, as I said, it's new to me. It's new to, I'm sure, a lot of people on the call. However, this might become second nature to all of us to understand that we can automate and be more clever in the way we do our outreach. And then we can do our own personal conversion when we're actually speaking to the person in a meeting. For YouCanBookMe, anybody interested in YouCanBookMe, we do have an expert mode. People who want to know how to use the tool and optimize it better. We've got a sneak view. We've got like a preview. You get chapter 1 of our expert mode, which is coming out later on this autumn. But you get on this call the first chapter to show you what you can do with YouCanBookMe.